Disease outbreaks in Chinese schools. Leaked internal Shanghai documents show a new wave risk. Chinese people discontentedly say, in China, 35 is too old to work. 60 is too early to retire. China. Cases of influenza type A in Beijing exceed COVID-mutated cases. US recalls 2 million Cosori air fryers produced in China. Ukraine war. Chinese brands dominate Russian car and phone markets.
Disease outbreaks in Chinese schools. Leaked internal Shanghai documents show a new wave risk. According to Chinese media, epidemics have recently broken out in schools and kindergartens in Beijing, Shanghai, and other places, with students having a collective fever causing many schools to close. In addition, there has been much information about various infectious diseases such as COVID, influenza A, and norovirus, which are common in local schools. At the same time, Shanghai station employees revealed they had received an internal document asking to prepare for pandemic prevention. According to People's Daily, on February 22nd, the Beijing Municipal Education Commission issued a notice saying some schools and kindergartens recently had a collective fever. It is confirmed that the current fever is caused by the influenza A virus. In addition, according to the notification to students' parents of the Yifu Primary School class, Qingpu District, Shanghai, on February 19, there were 4 cases of flu and many students with fever symptoms in the class. As a result, the students were allowed to be absent for 4 days from February 20th to 23rd. The Qingpu Education Bureau confirmed this notice and said the students had influenza A, not COVID. According to a video posted on Twitter by former Chinese media employee Zhao Lanjian, some citizens confirmed schools in Shanghai, Ningbo, Zhejiang province, and other places broke out in flu epidemics. The video said all schools in Shanghai, Ningbo, and Tianjin have closed due to influenza A. Some of our colleagues have children in kindergarten. The class often has more than 20 students, but these days it's halved. Local universities were supposed to return to school on February 25th, but are still temporarily closed. It was my first time hearing that classes were suspended due to influenza A. On February 21st, a Dajiwan reporter learned from a Shanxi parent that local schools had recently had a COVID outbreak and were closed. On February 21st, another Dajiwan reporter called Yifu Primary School in Qingpu District, Shanghai City, to inquire about the situation, but no one answered. Although official Chinese Communist Party CCP news emphasized that recent disease outbreaks in schools and kindergartens in China are flu, a reporter has learned through multiple channels that epidemics spreading through schools include COVID, influenza A, norovirus, and other infectious diseases. Lu, a parent in Suiqi District, Huaibei City, Anhui Province, told Dajiwan on February 21st that 2 infectious diseases, influenza A and norovirus, broke out at the local school. Liu said, "We are having an influenza A and norovirus outbreak here. Many children have fevers. My child also has a fever. However, the symptoms are not the same. These 2 viruses are spreading these days." She said, "If you have a fever and vomiting at the same time, it's probably norovirus. If you have a persistent fever, it's influenza A. We're in an outbreak where basically all the children will be affected, but the big hospitals only prescribe certain drugs. Public information shows that norovirus is highly contagious and can cause severe vomiting and diarrhea after infection." At the same time, Liang, who works at a Shanghai subway station, said, "The second pandemic wave in Shanghai and Hangzhou has arrived. The pandemic broke out in 3 Hangzhou schools, and a Qingpu elementary school in Shanghai had to close for 4 days due to the flu." Liang revealed the Shanghai station had issued an internal document. On February 21st, the station chief issued the document named Positive Passengers Handling Procedure, which talked about a number of pandemic prevention measures. However, the specific implementation time has not yet been determined. It asked employees to grasp the work as soon as possible and told them if the pandemic is not controlled, measures can be retaken in March. Liang said it does not rule out the possibility that the CCP may launch the zero-COVID policy again, but she added Shanghai's Sui Shenben app now has a health code function and a nucleic acid test report function. According to Chinese media, many incidents have occurred recently, causing Chinese people to say 35 is too old to work and 60 is too early to retire. An article from China.com on February 23rd said China's society is too strange. For example, 35 years old is the golden age to work, but companies think you are too old, while 60 is considered too young to retire. So on the one hand, young people are encouraged to have more children, but on the other hand, they are considering delaying retirement. For example, a factory in Jiangsu province was inundated with job seekers, but they didn't accept those who were born before 1986. According to the article, people often heard of programmers being unemployed at 35, but did not expect the same to happen with manufacturing plant jobs. So after being unemployed at 35, other than working as a food deliverer, courier, or online car hailing driver, what else can one do? A video posted by the Twitter account Xiaolu on February 23rd shows a long line of job seekers outside a Jiangsu factory on February 22nd. A woman shouted, "Those born before 1986 can leave." Some people then left. Abandoned by the country, 35 is too old to work, 60 is too early to retire. In this regard, NetEase had an article saying the administrative and public authorities set the 35-year age limit for recruitment, and others followed suit. In China, people over 35 are not allowed to apply for the civil service exam. The country has abandoned people of this age, and other businesses have followed suit. The article pointed out that people around 35 are theoretically the most stable and productive. However, the author didn't understand why China prioritizes hiring people under 35. Young people don't have long work experience, and the mistake rate at work is still high. Chinese citizens are also hotly discussing this issue, with Vision Times citing, "Isn't it good to be a 35-year-old with 3 children begging for a living? We must be optimistic. I want to work, but I'm too old. I want to retire, but I'm too young. 10 million college students is too much. 8 million babies is too few. 35 is too old to work. 60 is too early to retire." Some netizens angrily said, "Young people, see, not having children is the biggest lack of responsibility to society. How can I live? 35 years old but can't find a job. How can I live?" Someone asked, "What should I do if I am over 35 years old? Will I starve to death?" Some unemployment in China leads to massacres. As VOA reported on February 20th, the Chinese Communist Party has announced hundreds of job fairs in China this month, and the biggest headache for Beijing is young people's unemployment. A Hunan official surnamed Liu recently told RFA from February 13th to 20th there had been at least 7 mass murder cases in China. At least 12 people had been killed. One reason is that most of the lower class suffered a very difficult life during the 3-year pandemic. Just a few thousand yuan, $1 equals 6.94 yuan, can make them instantly collapse and lead to bloody murder cases. According to official Liu, everyone inside the CCP knows the cause of these tragedies, but these incidents are never reported internally. In the place where this official lives, jobs are few and the working time is also long. His district recruited 10 teachers, but more than 2,800 people applied. According to VOA, Zhaopin, China's largest recruitment company, recently published a survey on February 16th. According to statistics, of the 50,000 employees interviewed, 47.3% worry they may lose their jobs this year, much higher than 39.8% last year. In addition, about 60% consider the uncertain economic environment as the main factor affecting their confidence, which was also higher than 48.4% last year.
On February 26th, the phrases, "The number of flu cases in Beijing have surpassed the number of COVID-mutated cases," and "The incidence of influenza A virus is high," with a single-day search volume approaching 70,000. On February 26th, shortlisted the hot search. Baidu data shows increased searches and reports of flu A. February 24th alone had nearly 70,000 searches. According to a report from NetEase, antiretroviral medicines such as oseltamivir or Tamiflu are selling out in some drugstores. People's Daily reported on the 26th that the Beijing CDC released the latest weekly report on the epidemic on February 22nd. This report showed that from February 13th to February 19th, the number of reported influenza cases surpassed the COVID infection cases. This news immediately became the topic of discussion among many netizens. Some netizens questioned why the flu is so severe, and why medical facilities didn't give a warning sooner. Internet user at YiTianYu0AY said, "Many mothers have been infected, and the children are more serious. Their body temperature has reached 103.1 degrees Fahrenheit, or 39.5 degrees Celsius. They still have a fever after taking antipyretics." Christina0755 said, "My child also had influenza A. Fever got to over 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit and lasted 7 hours. Yinjie65 said, "After contracting the mutant COVID, immunity has declined." Some other netizens queried whether this is a new variant of corona. Recently, many schools in mainland China have repeatedly announced the suspension of opening classes. Officials claim that influenza A viruses are creeping in relentlessly and targeting young people. Many schools in Tianjin, Zhejiang, Wuhan, and other places announced the suspension of classes because most of their students were infected with the flu. Some videos posted online record the packed scene of influenza A patients at Tianjin Children's Hospital. The videographer wrote, "Yongwin Hospital is almost paralyzed. The hospital beds are packed with inpatients. Fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit continuously for 3 days. Fluids and medication do not help reduce fever. Sick children are almost comatose. Adults caring for them are not better." The influenza A virus predominates among the influenza viruses currently circulating in Beijing. Influenza A H1N1 accounted for 64%, an H3N2 variant accounted for 35%, and the B variant accounted for only 1%. Beijing No. 1 General Hospital of Oriental and Western Medicine told reporters that the hospital has many people diagnosed with influenza A. After being infected with influenza A, except for having a normal sense of smell and taste, other symptoms are similar to people infected with COVID. Chen Xin, the chief doctor of the respiratory department at the China-Japan Friendship Hospital, said that the symptoms of these two diseases are similar, making it difficult to distinguish. Therefore, an antigen test is recommended to ascertain which type the patient has.
The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission recently recalled 2 million Cosori air fryers sold in America, Canada, and Mexico. All of the recalled air fryers were manufactured in China. Customers are advised to immediately stop using several specific air fryer models from Cosori and get a free replacement. The company put up a unique website for clients to trade in their old air fryers for new ones. An official report from Cosori stated that there had been over 200 reports of the air fryers catching fire, burning, melting, overheating, and smoking. The announcement reads, "We are determined that in extremely rare circumstances, the close and crimp connectors within the recalled air fryers, which are responsible for establishing electrical connections between certain wires, can overheat, posing fire and burn hazards." The recalled air fryers batch was sold between June 2018 through December 2022, and each cost from $70 to $130. The fryers were available in black, gray, white, blue, or red colors and came in sizes 3.7 and 5.8 quarts. Cosori added, "Cosori is committed to the safety of those who use and love our products, and we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience."
Chinese companies dominated the Russian market after the Ukraine war, driving big Western rivals away. As CNN reported from Counterpoint Research, Chinese manufacturers enjoyed 95% of the smartphone market in Russia last year, a significant increase from 40% in December 2021. It happened after two brand leaders, Apple and Korea's Samsung, withdrew from the country. As a result, their market share nosedived from 53% in December 2021 to 3% from August 2022 onward. In their place are Chinese rivals Xiaomi and Realme. Xiaomi, which became the top smartphone seller in Russia, expanded its footprint by 115% in November 2022, starting from just 23% in February 2022. Realme rose from 6 to 25% during the same period. Another segment that Chinese firms were able to overpower is auto. According to S&P Global Mobility, carmakers Chery, Great Wall Motor, and Geely rose in popularity, whereas BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes disappeared from Russia's top 10 passenger vehicle brands. Tu Lue, founder of Beijing-based consulting firm Sino Auto Insights, said, "It left a huge hole in the market, and the Chinese are glad to fill that hole." Data from Autostat shows that Russians purchased a record number of Chinese cars last year. Moreover, new Chinese car sales in the country continued to grow by 7% in 2022, to 121,800 units, amid a market crash. Analysts debate whether this market structure will remain the same if the war ends and competitive rivals return. Yan Stryak, an associate director of Counterpoint Research, expects Apple and Samsung to reclaim the market rapidly. However, CNN noted that Chinese players might be able to maintain their position, especially given how long it may take to reassemble the supply systems. Tu Lue from Sino Auto Insights sees a possibility that Chinese brands would gain a permanent stand. He said, stating this a bit harshly, but the Russian brands and the Chinese brands are kind of stand-ins for the real players.